right, you just heard the big news, and I think this does play a role in the election. Donald Trump has been given a lower bond, and so this is going to be a big deal in the civil fraud case. The bond, he must post a $175 million bond within 10 days as he appeals the $454 million judgment against him. So this is a little bit of the former president as he was leaving a courtroom talking about this judge's decision.
Thank you very much. Judge Ed Gorin has done a terrible disservice to the state of New York. What he's done is terrible. Businesses are fleeing, and you see that. We just released a statement on Truth. Businesses are fleeing and crime is flourishing all over the state, and what he's done is such a disservice and should never be allowed to happen again. New York State is being battered by his decision.
So that is the former president after this new judge has made a decision on this, and now he says he will post this new bond number, which the new number is $175 million.
I greatly respect the decision of the appellate division, and I'll post either $175 million in cash or bonds or security or whatever is necessary very quickly within the 10 days. And I thank the appellate division for acting quickly. But Judge Ed Gorin is a disgrace to this country, and this should not be allowed to happen. Thank you very much.
So in this segment of the show, we're talking specifically about the election. 1 in 4 Americans, 26% of Americans have a double negative. Sentiment is more common among younger adults and older adults. Most Americans view only one of the two men favorably. 37% have a favorable view of Trump and an unfavorable view of Biden, while 34% have a favorable view of Biden and an unfavorable view of Trump. That's about a 3% difference. Just 2% of Americans say they have a favorable view of both. This was a poll of over 12,000 people conducted February 13th through the 25th. Double negatives are more common among them. Unfavorable of both, 26%. Then there's 34 favorable Biden, 37% favorable Trump. The reason why I start with this and talk about this is how much of this is going to play a role. This is the unfortunate part, and it's not just this election cycle, it's every election cycle, that it tends to become less about issues and it becomes more about personalities. Who is, and as negative as politics has gotten, and it's only negative because it works. If it was only positive ads that worked, candidates would run positive ads or all positive ads. Negativity works. People say they hate it, but it works. When you hear about this one being evil and all this one is horrible, and when you hear those things, it works in American politics. Unfortunately, it does. But it usually is about their personalities. We're going to hear so much about Joe Biden and his connection with his son's businesses, Hunter Biden, and whether or not he helped Hunter Biden profit using his position as the vice president of the United States and business dealings with China and other nations. And with President Trump, you're going to hear a lot about these civil lawsuits in Georgia and then these other ones and hush money. And in the end, what the American public has to vote on is this. These are the two candidates from the two major political parties. The American public has got to decide which of these two individuals is qualified to hold the highest office in the entire world for the next 4 years. Now, when you hear people say neither, that is right now great. You can have that conversation now that I don't think either one of them are capable. But when given the decision between the two, which of them has the inside track to winning? How much will something like today play a role in this? The narrative from the Trump administration, from the Trump team, has been from the inception of him running for president, becoming the nominee for the Republicans, has been, they're not after me, they're after you, I'm just standing in the way. And that narrative, to be very honest, I have not been in favor of this continued fight of stolen elections and everything else. I've gone after my party, and I've said that is not the right way to win elections, in my opinion. And that's what this show is about, my opinion. But on the other side of the aisle, feeding the narrative that you will use any means necessary, political power or otherwise. If you go look, there's a video floating around the internet of Letitia James, the prosecutor in New York, before she had the office, at events saying that she's running for the office and she's going to get him. and that we are going to sue him, and he's going to know me by name, and they're laughing about it. And this was like her whole campaign with the people on the left was to get and take down President Trump. That's circulating. Well, what that does, it may feed your base, just like an election denial may feed the base for the Republicans in certain circles. But what it does is it shows people the narrative that there might be some truth to the narrative that we will use any political means necessary. You look at what's going on in Georgia in that case, where the prosecutor in that case has lied and is facing possibility of punishment up to disbarment for lying about her relationship with the head prosecutor in the case against Donald Trump in the Georgia election cycle. I'm not picking a side necessarily. It feeds the narrative in the minds of many people, not just the Trump supporters, but potential Trump supporters, that there is a political witch hunt that is happening. And Americans, by and large, don't care who you are. If you're using your political clout and influence to damage someone else, if it's someone on the right damaging someone on the left or vice versa, the American people want no part in that. They don't think it should play any role. The other side of it as well is going to be the same thing. If the only thing that Republicans are going to do in this election cycle is say that Democrats are evil and that Hunter Biden benefited from his dad's influence, and you're going to do this solely about personal attacks and criminal behavior that hasn't been proven yet, are you going to just solidify the base? What is it that those 26% of voters that say neither, or the 30% of voters that say none of the above, that neither are capable of running this country? How do you get to those independent voters? How do you get to them with some kind of message that resonates? Because there are a lot of people that buy the political negatives, especially as divided as we are. But what about the people that don't? And those will be the deciders. There are two things happening in this election cycle that I think are fairly unique. One of them is the rise of independent or party non-declared voters. They have very passionate beliefs on both sides of the aisle. Some are conservative, some are liberal, but both groups are disenfranchised and just not happy with the political party that they're most closely aligned with in policy. So they're not going to claim loyalty to a party. The other part of it is both of these men have resumes that people can go back and say, was I better off under Trump? Have I been better off under Biden? And vote accordingly. Those two things are going to be a big deal in this. It's going to be a big deal. So I'm looking at some of the things. There's one unique story. There are 11 rappers, and the reason why I printed this out, there are 11 hip hop artists that are supporting Donald Trump, and I think I've only heard of one or two of them. I think there's only one or two people I've even heard of. But this is going to be a different kind of election. And I think the political party, the campaigns that figure out and know which group to speak to and learn how to speak to the party non-declared voters, I keep going back to this every day, you're going to have to carry your base with you and have them understand that there is an untapped group of voters you desperately need in this election cycle.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch and listen to the new season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.